So we've just looked at how we can go about creating tasks within our project. And these are things such as stakeholder meetings that we looked at, and things such as setting up of servers, configuring of networks. So these are the various tasks that we simply want to see within our environment being achieved. And once we have listed these, it's important for us to also be able to tie them to the various resources that actually go with those tasks. For example, for the configuration of our networks, we need to make sure that the rightful resource has to be pulled up in order for us to be able to achieve that. And in this case, this could be somebody such as a network engineer that works on this particular project. Or maybe we simply want to look at stakeholder meetings, and these have to be organized and orchestrated perhaps by our project manager. So we've got to make sure that each and every resource that we have in the environment is rightly assigned to the rightful tasks that we have. Now, beyond that, we now have to look at our project calculation. Our project calculation plays strongly into the various tasks that we would have created within our environment. When we look at any project, we have to look at the resources that we have, that's one, and we also have to look at the tasks at play. Why do we have to figure out the task aspect? Well, this is simply because for each and every task that we have within our environment, we also have the duration of that particular task, right? That must be a duration over there. So let us say, for example, that we've got a resource such as our project manager, and the project manager has to go about organizing and ensuring that everything that happens at the stakeholder meetings is successfully achieved. The stakeholders meetings duration is 2 days. All right, so we've got 2 days over here. So if our project manager charges us, let's say $80 per hour, okay, this simply means we've got to figure out how many hours in those 2 days is the project manager going to work. Now, we've already stated within this project that we are working with an 8-hour workday. This simply means for the 2 days the project manager will be working, there's going to be 16 hours of work. Okay, so 16 hours of work multiplied by $80 per hour, that will result in a total of 1,280 for the time that the project manager will be working on this particular stage of our task. And that should then be reflected as well in our project calculation. And this is the very important part, which would give us insight into the total cost of this particular project and how well we're doing in terms of achieving the project. There's actually more to this. In fact, when you look at how you'd manage real projects in the industry, sometimes there is a lag. Let's say this stakeholders meeting, instead of it running for 2 days, ended up being in 3 days, and now you have to figure out what the total cost is for 3 days, etc. You would also make use of what is known as a baseline. The baseline would give you insight into what exactly is happening in terms of what you had projected your costs to be and what your actual costs are, etc. So let's touch a bit on this and give you insights in terms of how you can go about getting started if you are maybe starting your career as a project manager or somebody who is just getting to use Microsoft projects to make sure that you are up to speed. Okay, so here we are within our Gantt chart. The first thing I'd like us to do is to make sure that we do not have any manually assigned tasks over there. So I would simply want to go and convert all these to automatic. All right, or simply select everything here, and then we'll simply go back to our tasks. And here we have the option auto schedule. So that will simply convert all these tasks into auto as opposed to manually assigned tasks. This simply works better when you're looking at calculating various tasks that you have within your environment. Okay, so once we have done that, the second thing that we simply want to do is to go ahead and add the various resources we need for this particular project. All right, so to add our resources, let's go and select resources over there. And from here, we have assign resources. So from this particular section, we can begin the process of creating our own resources. Now we have an option under this section that says filter by. We can simply go and select by groups if we have groups within our environment, and then we can specify the group name, etc. Or we can simply go straight in this section and begin creating resources like we did previously. Now, I already have my QA test here, but if I wanted to, I could go and specify my project manager. So I'll simply go and say project manager over there. Let's just capitalize that. So let's say project manager, and after that, we want a network engineer, and beyond that, we also maybe need an IT systems administrator. So you would go on and on specifying the various resources that you simply want to see within this particular area. And once you have that in place, you can then go further by also looking at the cost and things that are required in order for these resources to be available. Now, for now, I'll simply close that. And once I've closed that, I want to show you quickly that if we went to the resources section within our Gantt chart, if we move all the way, we've got our WBS here. Let's go ahead and select a new column over here and click Insert Column. And in this particular area, if we go and look for resources, we should be able to begin selecting the various resources that we need for this particular project. There we go. We have resource names. So we'll simply select on that option. And if we went to, let's say, stakeholder interviews, this option over here, and went back to resource names, we should be able to click on that down arrow and select our project manager. So this is what we would do for any other task that we have within our project that requires a resource assigned to it. For instance, over here, we also have security hardening. So maybe the security hardening might need a security engineer, but let's say our security engineering tasks are also handled by our network engineering team. So we would simply go over there and also select network engineer over there. And this would allow us to have all the resources that we need for this particular task. Now, once we have resources added to the various tasks that we have, the next part is for us to add the costing. Now, if we went and selected that column over here, you'd notice that we have actual cost. And if I selected an option such as actual cost over here, you'd notice that everything in that particular area is on zeros, meaning we do not have any costing that is tied to every resource that we have in this project, something that we have to do as we progress. But for now, give me a minute. I just want to go ahead and add the various resources required in this particular column, and then we'll pick it up from there, adding the costs that are tied to every resource that we have within this project. Okay, so I have added the various resources that we need, and if we went to any of these sections, you'd now be able to see that we have just more than one or two resources like we had previously. So the second part is for us now to look into the cost. And like I said previously, we can now see the cost that we have. This particular cost that you see as actual cost simply shows the amount of money you would have spent so far on that particular resource at that time of your project. And since our project hasn't kicked off yet, we can see that everything is in zeros here. But as you progress, these figures would actually change. After 2 weeks, it'll be able to reflect how much you spent on the project manager. Or after 2 months into a project, you should be able to see what you'd have spent on the systems engineer, etc. But what if we wanted to see the calculated cost that we're going to spend for the entire period of that particular project for a particular resource? Well, all we have to do is to go to our column and look for cost. By the way, we can also type in this area. So if I type cost over there, and that one is in zeros because we have not yet added the unit cost for each and every resource that we have within this project. For us to do so, we simply have to go to assign resources. And from here, we should be able to see the various resources that we have. So there we have our QA test, hardware procurement. Oh, by the way, there are times when you're doing costing that certain resources would not really have an hourly rate. They would simply have a fixed rate. You're purchasing hardware over here. You won't be doing it over and over again. So you simply have to say this is a once-off purchase and that's the cost. So let's go ahead and add QA testing and look at what would actually assign for each and every resource that we have. So let's say the standard rate for this particular resource is going to be $65 per hour. So we simply type 65 over there and click on OK for now. And that would reflect to 1,040 based on the various hours that are reflected over there. So you can see that is already changing. So let's go to network engineer role. And then here we simply have to go ahead and specify the cost as well. Let's go back to cost over there. And let's say this would be $80 per hour for this particular resource. And then we go to project manager and click OK. All right, so now we've assigned resource cost to all the tasks that we have except for hardware procurement. Let's go ahead and look at this single purchase cost. Just close that menu and head to our taskbar, and over here we have to go and select view, and from view we have to select resource sheet. Resource sheet will simply open all the resources that we've added so far within an Excel looking section, and this allows us to now change. You'll notice that here we have the various resources such as project manager, QA test, network engineer, and these are hardware procurement. Now everything here is currently under one type, and that is work. We simply have to change this because this is not work, from work to material, and that is what would allow us to make that change. And once we've changed change that, we can then come to the standard rate over here and say this is going to cost us a total of, let's say, $5,000. So simply reference that over there. And once we have that in place, we'll simply go ahead and click on tasks and revert to our Gantt chart, and we can go and check whether hardware procurement, this one over here, has added that $5,000 as the cost. And there we go. That is the cost for that particular resource that we need. So this is how you can go about adding the various resources that you need within this particular environment, looking at the cost and making sure that everything correctly reflects what you want to achieve and the cost of every task and phase of your project. For a granular or more detailed visualization of your project, you would still go back to the View tab, and from here, you could go to areas such as Outline. You'd notice that here we can go and select level 1, for example, and it simply helps us summarize or see what projects we have. And if we selected level 2, it will give us the sub domains that we have for these projects, and level 3 would give us everything for this particular project that we have. We have timeline, like you saw previously, a very important feature that simply shows us where we are within that particular project and how far we still have to go, etc. Going back to view again, we still have a detailed view that we can also look at if we wanted to see more information regarding this project. And here we can see there's more information regarding hardware procurement, etc. If we went back to sort, there are quite a lot of features over here. Tables, for example, this would give us information regarding the various costs if we are looking at costing and how well we are doing and who is involved at what stage, etc. There is just a lot that we can actually look at in this particular section. And we can go back to entry, which gives us more information regarding the project itself. Sort, this would help us to look at this information based on start dates, end date, etc. And we could go to areas such as time scale, which would also give us insights into hourly workings. Maybe you're interested into our quarterly workings. If that project is a month-based project or a quarterly-based project, you can see all that from this particular section over here. And if we went back to the Gantt chart, you'd notice that we have more information. Just click on task over here and go to Gantt. You'd notice that we can go into the network diagramming, which would give us more information regarding this particular project, giving us the various tabs, showing us how each and every phase is taken care of from start to finish, and the various resources that are involved in that particular project. And this, my friend, is to simply say project management skills are not exhaustive by simply going through Microsoft Project. There is quite a lot to learn, and sometimes it varies based on the kind of project that you're working on in the industry. Are you in the construction industry? Is this for the IT industry? Is this oil and gas? So it simply depends on the kind of project that you're doing. However, this would get you started and put your foot in the door and help you get some skills in terms of your preparation as you scale your career in project management. I hope this has been informative and helpful to you, and I'd like to congratulate you for coming to the very end of our Microsoft Project Professional Training.